Chapter 4, Business Ethics and Social Responsibility, Doing Well by Doing Good. In this chapter, we're going to learn about ethics and being socially responsible. When we are done with this lecture, you should be able to define ethics and explain the concept of universal ethical standards. You should be able to describe business ethics and their ethical dilemmas. I want you to be able to discuss how ethics relates to both the individual and the organization. You should be able to define social responsibility and examine the impact on stakeholder groups, explain the role of social responsibility in the global arena, and finally, describe how companies evaluate their efforts to be socially responsible. So ethics are a set of beliefs about right and wrong, good and bad. And where the challenge comes in society and in business in particular is that people come from a wide variety of backgrounds. And what may be ethical behavior in one situation in one country may be unethical someplace else. So ethics are related to individuals and their day-to-day decision making. And each individual's decision affects the entire organization. So a given country's legal system provides a solid starting point for examining ethical standards. In the United States, for example, businesses come to an agreement, they sign a contract, and then that contract is used to keep everybody on the same page. In other countries, a contract may be signed, but you may need to go back and bribe some of the company officials in order to move your business forward. And so there's a difference in ethicals, or an example of a difference in ethics. So here we have some examples, and I'm not going to read through all of these, but some examples of the legal ethical matrix. So an item that is legal and unethical is promoting high-calorie, low-nutrient foods with inadequate information about the risks. That's completely legal to do, but it is really unethical. Trans fats in food products are an example where they used to be in all sorts of food and they cause lots of heart problems. And consumers didn't know about trans fats. Well, now you see on lots of packaging that products are now made without trans fats. Another legal and unethical dilemma is paying non-living wages to workers in developing countries. It's legal to do that, but are you paying them a fair wage so that they can earn enough money? If we go to the right and look at legal and ethical, so producing high quality products, that's both legal and it's ethical. Rewarding integrity, leading by example, treating employees fairly, contributing to the community, and respecting the environment. Those are all examples of being legal and ethical. Some examples of being illegal and unethical: embezzling money, engaging in sexual harassment, practicing collusion with competitors, and encouraging fraudulent accounting. And then illegal and ethical is some examples include providing rock bottom prices only to distributors in underserved areas, or collaborating with other medical clinics to guarantee low prices in low income counties. So these are all examples of actions that can be legal or illegal, and ethical or unethical. Now, for many people, ethical standards are different in different situations. But what has been identified are 6 ethical standards that are really very universal, regardless of your background, regardless of the country of origin. So, some universal ethical standards being trustworthy, treating others with respect, being responsible, and under responsibility, we have perseverance and being self-controlled and accountable for your choices and decisions. Being fair, being caring, and then citizenship, which is contributing to the community, protecting the environment, and cooperating wherever feasible. So thinking outside of yourself. Now, ethics and its connections to business. In business ethics, the application of right and wrong, good and bad in a business setting is, I would say, a growing issue. We have workplace salary compensations that are undergoing a lot of discussion. The role of the business in the environment. Are we being good stewards of our earth? So businesses do have lots of ethical considerations that they need to think about. Now, an ethical dilemma is a decision that involves a conflict of values. And so ethical lapses might involve clear misconducts where maybe you're an accountant and you're the one that's in charge of distributing money, and it's very tempting sometimes to take that money for yourself, but you know that you shouldn't. So that's an example where you may be having a dilemma about what you should do. Now, although employees make their own ethical choices, the organization does influence choices. The interaction between the employee's ethical choices and the organization's ethical choices is so intertwined that it is sometimes difficult to tell where one stops and the other begins. So let's take a moment and consider understanding social responsibility. So making ethical choices is very challenging. That's why experts have developed this framework outlined on this slide to help people make ethical decisions. So when you are investigating social responsibility, do you fully understand each dimension of the problem? Who would benefit? Who would suffer from these actions? Are there alternative solutions that are legal? Are they fair? Does your decision make you comfortable at a gut feel level? Could you defend your decision on the nightly TV news? Or better yet, Facebook? Or have you considered and reconsidered your responses to each question that has been presented to you? So research conducted by the Ethics Resource Center shows that organizational culture influences the conduct of all employees. A strong ethical culture strives for all employees to take ethical actions and to hold the employees accountable and responsible for those actions. The Ethics Resource Center research also shows that employees adopt a higher standard of conduct for themselves only when they see their leaders working ethically. So, code of ethics. A code of ethics is defined as the ethical standards of an organization and gives employees the information they need to make ethical decisions across a range of situations. The code guides the employees in making these decisions, and it may be the code may be written or it may be implied. So, an effective code of ethics connects the corporate values with the organizational communication, training, and action. Different organizations have different codes of ethics. So, steps to maintaining a code of ethics: get executive buy-in and commitment to follow through. Establish expectations for ethical behavior at all levels of the organization. Integrate ethics into mandatory staff training, and ensure that the ethics code is both global and local in scope. Some other steps include building and maintaining a clear, trusted reporting structure for ethical concerns and violations, establishing protection for whistleblowers, and a whistleblower is someone who reports illegal or unethical behavior. And most importantly, the code of ethics must be enforced in order for the organization to embrace those ethics. So this is an example of the spectrum of social responsibility. You have some businesses that don't make any contributions and they do not recognize an obligation to society, and they only do what is legally required, all the way to the other end of the spectrum where you have proactive contributions, where some businesses choose to integrate social responsibility into their strategic plans, and they contribute this as part of their business goals. One example that I'm thinking of is Starbucks has certain types of coffee that they sell that is marketed as being socially responsible, that it's fair trade, the workers were paid a fair price, the coffee plantations are using best practices in terms of taking care of the environment, and Starbucks has done a nice job of marketing that. So, social responsibility stakeholders groups. So, social responsibility is the obligation of a business to contribute to society in which it operates. All businesses aim at long-term profit, but once firms achieve reasonable profit, they should start focusing on their social responsibilities. As they are doing that, businesses should refer to their values, mission, resources, and management philosophy while finding their position on social responsibility. The needs, expectations, and levels of interest are different for different stakeholders. Socially responsible organizations identify their important stakeholders and consider the stakeholders' priorities while making these decisions. Such organizations aim to achieve a balance between the stakeholders' interests and their own business commitments. Socially responsible employers make sure that they meet all legal standards. And apart from the points listed in the slide, these employers also offer their employees protection from sexual harassment, family and medical unpaid leaves, and so on. They also give the employees a work environment where the employees feel dignified and valued. They try to help the employees balance their work and personal life. Now, in addition to being responsible to employees, businesses have a responsibility to consumers. Now, consumerism is a social movement that focuses on four key consumer rights: the right to be safe, the right to be informed, the right to choose, and the right to be heard. Businesses should deliver consumer value by providing quality products at fair prices. And they should also be honest and communicate well with their customers. When businesses make a mistake, they should tender a sincere apology to customers and shareholders. And a sincere apology, along with corrective steps, will go a long way in rebuilding the company's lost reputation. Responsibility to investors. So businesses have to make money for their investors, but in the long run, companies are required to be responsible toward all their stakeholders. So companies may have to trade short-term profits for long-term success. And sometimes they have to do that in order to meet their legal requirements. Companies should also see to it that they spend the investors' money wisely and are honest in all of their financial dealings. Now, the Sarbanes-Oxley Act came into place to limit the conflict of interest that consulting services might have with accounting firms. During the early 1990s, financial consultants would advise their clients to behave in ways that were unethical and that would make the accounting firm would benefit the accounting firm. So this act, that is an act that was enacted by Congress, seeks to limit those conflicts of interest so that it's another guideline to help companies make the right decisions. Now, responsibility to the community. There are several ways that businesses can support community actions. One is corporate philanthropy, where businesses make donations to nonprofit groups. A lot of companies have a campaign every fall for the United Way, which is a nonprofit that then distributes those funds to other nonprofits. Cause-related marketing is a partnership between a business and a nonprofit. So it's designed to increase sales for the company and raise money for the nonprofit firm. We see that a lot with on some of the breast cancer marketing that happens in October. You'll see Yoplait yogurt with pink lids, and if you send in the lids from this yogurt, General Mills will make a donation to the Susan B. Komen nonprofit. So their sales get a boost and the nonprofit has some increased revenue. And finally, we have corporate responsibility, which focuses on the actions of the business itself rather than donations of money and time. So our Nike does a really nice job of making physical fitness and providing opportunities for their employees to maintain a healthy lifestyle, which helps not only the employees, but it also helps Nike in terms of lowering their insurance premiums. So, assessing social responsibility. When does a gift become a bribe? And how can corporations monitor corruption and enforce corporate policies in their foreign branches? And what are other ways to gain a competitive edge in countries where bribes are both accepted and expected? These are all very challenging questions, and especially as globalization continues to make our world a smaller place, it's difficult for employees to follow an ethical and socially responsible outlook. Bribery and corruption top the list of challenges faced by many international businesses. And these are just some of the questions that as you launch your own careers, you may find yourself in a position where you need to answer these questions for not only yourself, but also the company that you work for. Some other questions include, does a living wage mean enough to support an individual or a family? Does support mean enough to subsist day to day or enough to live in modest comfort? And should American businesses ban child labor in countries where families depend on their children's wages to survive? Businesses have a responsibility toward all their workers who work abroad. Businesses should at the very least see to it that such workers receive living wages, have reasonable working hours, and work in safe environments. The truly socially responsible also set up code of conducts for their vendors. The code of conduct usually outlines the policies for human rights, wages, safety, and environmental impact. The code of conducts become successful when they are closely monitored and properly enforced. And finally, we have a social audit, which is an evaluation of how well a firm is meeting its ethics and social responsibility objectives. So this can be done by establishing goals and then figuring out how to evaluate the achievement of these goals. And think of your SMART goals, where they need to be specific, measurable, accountable, and time-bound. Now, many firms are monitoring themselves through the process of social audit by establishing their social responsibility goals and then determining the process for evaluating these goals. Activist customers, investors, unions, environmentalists, and community groups keep a close watch on corporations and their social responsibilities. And the threat of government regulations also motivates many companies to regulate themselves. It is much easier for a company to self-regulate rather than having the government mandate a lot of rules for them to follow. So looking back, we defined ethics and explained the concept of universal ethical standards. We described some business ethics and some different dilemmas. And the meat of this chapter is really about how ethics relates to both the individual and the organization. We took a look at social responsibility and examined the impact on different stakeholder groups. And we explained the role of social responsibility in the global arena. And we also looked at how companies can evaluate their efforts to be socially responsible. So this ends chapter 4. There is a quiz and there is another assignment in Buzz. So please turn to Buzz, and if you have any questions, please contact me as soon as you can. Thank you. Have a great week.